Hey guys, welcome to Drive and Thrive Business on the Green. I'm so excited to start this podcast with my co-host Sam.
What's up, guys?
It's going to be our first EP. We're going to talk about some fun stuff. We're going to talk about golf, business, entrepreneurship, and junior golf.
Yeah, so this is a cool concept that we came up with. Sam and Sam, right? It's kind of funny, but we're both named Sam. I'm a business guy who likes to play golf, and Sam actually grew up playing golf and became a professional golfer. And now he's a professional golfer who got injured, turned entrepreneur. And we've been talking a lot on the phone, like brainstorming together on different concepts of business and how to play golf. And I have two kids that play junior golf competitively. So we started talking and we came up with this cool concept of the podcast. So,
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think this came about because all the calls that I call Sam a lot because I want advice. Sam's a successful businessman. I'm getting into the field the last 6-7 years, and I felt like, these talks are a podcast. We should do that, give free game. There's gonna be a lot of like-minded people that are like us. Parents are gonna, parents have questions all the time about junior golf that this may answer. So
yeah, and then business wise too, there's a good correlation between golf and business all the time. And I use golf as a platform to make money and network with people to figure out how to do more business or meet people doing different types of business. Like you met me, I do completely different than what you do. But when we started talking, you were like, "Oh, I sell golf sleeves. How do I do more sales of that?"
Right.
And I showed you different ways that you can tap into to generate more revenue and different ideas. You know
Which has helped a lot recently. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie, but thank you very much for that.
Yeah, and actually, Sam took me and my two kids on a 18-hole round, and he was giving my kids pointers on how to play golf and the mental mindset of how to play better to lower your score during a competition or a tournament, right?
Right. We were just talking about something very interesting. There's two totally different perspectives from Sam and me. Sam. I was a junior golfer at 9. I started golf at 9 years old, and I'm 33 now, so I've been playing golf for 24 years. I went through, junior golf, amateur to the pros, and what me and Sam were talking about was how do you raise your kid in golf? Are you pushing him? Are you letting him do his thing? I'll let you take that.
I know. So I got a 17-year-old golfer. I have 3 boys. My oldest doesn't play competitive golf. So my second one is 17. My youngest just turned 14, and they play competitive golf. And they started during COVID, so that was like maybe 3-4 years ago. They did not know how to play golf at all. But in the short span of time, they got really good. And so I said, why don't you start playing tournaments? They started playing tournaments. They were doing well. And even kids who were playing like when they were 9 or 8 or 6, for all their life, my kids were beating them. So I was like, okay, there's maybe some potential in your golf game here. So I was telling you earlier in the conversation, it's like, how do you balance between not pushing your kids so much? If you watch the documentary about Tiger Woods, Earl Woods, his dad, would push Tiger to the brink of like, man, I hate the man. I hate this guy. I hate this guy. And I'm sure you going through that level of being an outlier, I feel like anyone in a professional athlete world, you're an outlier. You spent tens of thousands of hours, way more than anyone who's just good at that hobby, right?
Right.
And so I'm trying to teach my kids the discipline of how to do that. But every time I push them more and more, they get to the point where like, I hate you, Dad, or like they don't want me to be around them because everything I say, whether it's constructive or whatever it is, they take it as a negative comment, right? So like, give me from your perspective, because you're closer to that mindset because you were that junior golfer, right?
Yeah, that is really difficult. And now that, I recently got married and, want to have kids of my own,
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I think about that. But looking back, how my dad did things with me, which I'm very grateful for looking back, is he would challenge me.
Okay.
He would challenge me. You know, he wouldn't tell me day to day, hey, are you practicing hard? Are you going to the range? He would never tell me. He would put that trust into me and said, oh, my son will do it. I don't need to talk to him about it. But, you know, he would check in maybe increments of 3 to 4 months. And if he would say, are you practicing hard? And I'm not, it would personally hit me hard. I'd be like, oh my goodness, my dad has been expecting me to practice hard.
Right.
And I haven't been. I like that way, but I also think everyone's different. You know, some people need a push. And I think, I'm not a parent, but I would say I would probably take the sacrifice to my kid not liking me as much so that when he's older, maybe hopefully he thanks me for it. But it's such a,
It's hard to tell
yeah.
because in your informative years, right? You don't have kids yet. I have 3 kids. They're still living at home, and so I gotta balance this. I don't know, like I don't want them to hate me while they're living under my roof,
Right.
and then later say, "Oh, Dad, thank you for pushing me and driving me," and da 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 da. And I'm like, or what if it's the opposite? They still hate me and they still don't take me. So I don't know.
That's difficult.
So let me ask you about the motivation, okay?
Yeah.
For you being a professional level, what motivated you as a kid to get to that point of the discipline to keep practicing and practicing? Because I can tell my kids, like, hey, go out and practice.
Yeah.
Hey, are you working hard? Are you actually doing effective practice versus just going out and hitting balls? And it's a different answer every time. So I don't know what their motivation is. I've given out bonuses and money, but at the same time, my kids grew up with money. So when I say, hey, if you shoot under par, I'll give you $500, they don't need $500. They get everything they need, right? So even though money motivates them, I don't know what other motivation I can do to have them want to pursue it.
I think, you know, again, I don't know if this is something you can teach. I think you could teach this, but for me personally, it was when I started golf, I was so bad compared to the other kids because I started at 10 and I played in, you know, tournaments where you're hearing all the parents say, oh yeah, my kids started when they were 4, 5, right?
Exactly.
So I'm so behind, and I was such a competitive kid playing basketball, football, everything. I knew at a young age I'm not going to be an NBA player, I'm not going to be an NFL player, and none of those things. But I felt that golf was a really good equalizer when I was younger, because I'll see tall kids play bad and the shortest kid beat him, or I'll see you know, a really strong looking kid lose to a kid that looks weak. So that to me was like, okay, I have a chance at this. I just got to work hard. And what motivated me was I was so bad, and I was like, there's no way I can let these kids beat me at a young age.
Yeah.
And it just, I kept that, you know, all the way, almost like a chip on my shoulder, I guess you could say. Yeah.
That's interesting because my son, my youngest, my oldest, my second one, who is a senior in high school now, I think he's kind of given up on golf to pursue the next level of going, because he could play Division 3, potentially Division 2, but right now Division 1 isn't looking at him. Yeah. So he's like, I don't want to play if I'm not playing Division 1. And I understand that. Yeah. Then I said, okay, focus on your school, but you can be a really good golfer.
Right.
My last one, 14, he's in 8th grade. He's still in the mix right there. Like, he's so close, but he's not at the level of kids that are shooting consistently like 60s, like 66 to 69. He's shooting anywhere between like under par, 2 to 3 strokes under par, to like upper 70s, right? So that's a big range. And I said, you need to narrow down your scoring in tournaments to like closer to par. And other kids that he's beaten in the past are sponsored by clubs like TaylorMade and Titleist and whatever, Callaway. So you get free clubs, free balls and stuff. And you can, you know, it's like, oh, I'm on Team TaylorMade or whatever it is. And you feel like you've accomplished something.
Right.
I told my kids, like, it would be cool to do that, but I can afford it. I paid for it. We took them down to the Kingdom and paid, I don't know, $12,000 to get new clubs, right?
Yeah.
For 2 of them. But it is still cool. Like, for me, I want to, like, dude, get your scores lower so you can be sponsored.
Right.
And then let's get free balls,
Right.
free clubs, whatever it is. But they're not at that level yet. So, but I know they have the potential because I've seen their scores be low.
Right.
But it's like the two things between their ears, their brain mindset is not focused for 18 holes.
Right.
And I'm trying to figure out how to do that. I've spent money, and we'll talk about the topic of spending money now in golf. In the 3-4 years of my kids playing golf, I've spent an average of just for lessons, green fees, and equipment. I would say average of $3,000 a month. Dude, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
$3,000.
That's someone's salary.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have, let's say my kids have weekly lessons, right? And luckily I have a putting coach and a swing coach.
All in one.
And they did 2 hours of lessons together. So they would do short game and they would do swing together. So it kind of worked out. That's still about $400 for 1 week, right? That's $1,600 for a month, right? Because it's like about $200 an hour. Yeah. Then I had a mentor coach for a little bit, but it wasn't weekly. It was like maybe once every month or once every 2 or 3 months. And now we stopped because I think he's too busy, so he hasn't had time to fit my kids in. So when you don't see the coach often on the mindset, right,
goes away.
Then it goes away. Then it's starting over again, right? And so they don't remember stuff.
Right.
And he charged, I think, $250 to $300 an hour. And it's Rick Sussinghouse, which is Colin's coach.
Right.
And he's supposed to be really good. And when we did take lessons, it was good, but it was hard to like keep up with the schedule.
Busy guy, yeah.
Busy guy, right?
Yeah.
So that's another. And then you play tournaments, right? And a lot of the golf tournaments are between $100 to $200 for entry. And then you got travel. So if it's not local, you're going somewhere else. And if it's a 2-day tournament, you're sleeping at hotels. And my kids don't like sleeping with me because I snore. So you got to get 2 rooms. So you get to the point, it gets expensive, right? And so the business of golf, I mean, you've been through it. If it's the industry is so big, even not just equipment guys, but like lesson guys, tournament guys.
Right.
You got AJGA, you got US Kids, you've got
SCPGA,
you got Futures
Kid,
Championships, you got like
California Junior Golf.
California Junior, you got every single one of these, and you got to pay for the annual fees, you got to pay for the tournaments, you got to pay for this, and it gets expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can't, I mean, that's why I tell my kids, hey, I'm spending $3,000 a month on your golf things. You better focus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure. No, I when I look back, my mom and dad, my mom would take me tournaments maybe 9, 10, 11, 12. After that, they didn't really come much. My dad came to some of my pro events, but during my amateur and junior, they didn't come a lot. They would drop me off and then I would go do my thing.
So did you caddy by yourself too?
Yeah.
Even when you were young?
Yeah, I never had a caddy when I was really young. Up until 18, I had a buddy, but I think what I'm trying to say is, I tell the kids, sometimes I sponsor some California Junior events. Every kid that comes by, I'll say, hey, say thank you to mom and dad, because mom and dad is here for 8 hours. It's back and forth, probably 2 hours. Your round is 4 or 5 hours. 7, 8 hours, now that I'm a grown up, I'm like, dang, 7, 8 hours, I could be doing so many different things, but I'm waiting for my kid. I'm sure I'll probably want to do it when I have a kid, but it's just, I'm so much more grateful to my parents because I'm like, I don't know how they did it, to be honest. I really don't.
Yeah, actually, William, my youngest, he played in the Cal Junior where you sponsored it. It was the story.
And he won.
And he won the tournament.
Go.
Yeah.
I love it.
So it's kind of meant to be, I guess. But I mean, he's a good kid. You've golfed with him, and he's a great kid. But his focus is also in basketball. Mm-hmm. So he's a 2-sport athlete, which I don't mind now. But I told him, I said, you got to focus on one soon because the kids who are focused on basketball and the kids who are just focused on golf are spending 4 to 6 hours a day practicing their sport every day, which means if you're not doing the same thing, you're falling behind.
Yeah.
So if he's doing half and half of each, because he's got natural talent, but like size, he doesn't have size for basketball.
Right.
You know, most of the kids nowadays going into high school, I saw kids are average is like 6'3", 6'4", right?
I don't know what these kids.
And like
are
you
doing.
said, in basketball, that makes a huge difference. But in golf, I keep telling him, hey, figure this out, because golf, you don't have to be big.
Right.
And you're scrawny, right? My kid is scrawny.
Yeah.
He's probably 5'6" and growing, 5'7" and growing, and he's scrawny, but he hits the ball like driver, like 300 yards.
Yeah, he hits the ball pretty far. I play with him. Yeah. I think my dad, when I was 15, he told me, "Are you gonna continue to play golf or no?" Because when I was around 12 to 14, I was playing basketball.
Right.
I was, I wasn't bad, but I was short, and
Right.
so my dad like came to me one day. He's like, "Look, if I'm gonna invest in this, I need to know."
Right.
And that's how my dad was. He didn't speak often, but when he spoke, I listened because he didn't speak often, right?
Right.
And so he said, you don't need to keep playing, but I want to know because this ain't cheap,
yeah.
and I need to invest in you." And my dad's a businessman, just
Yeah.
like you.
Yep.
And so he said, "Because we got to be serious. You're 15. You're not young anymore." So he said to me, and I said, "I want to play."
Yeah.
Because I hated school that much. I hated school so much. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I said, I'll play golf. And
Out of default.
on a default. Golf was okay at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't love it.
Yeah.
And then I moved out of the house when I was 15. My dad said, "You're out. You're going to go live with this guy." He was a golf coach, LPGA Tour player's father. And I moved. I started homeschooling. I did all the work on my own. And then I lived with him. Every day was golf. Every day I'll come back home once a week to take a test for the homeschool and then go back. And I did that for 3 years.
So you saw your parents once a week?
I saw my parents on a special occasion be twice a week.
Okay.
But once a week I saw them, and then
Starting 15.
starting at 15. I was sad.
Yeah. So you were, because golf is a solo sport.
Golf's a solo sport.
Yeah. And so you're by yourself with the coach. And a lot of times you're also by yourself, even without the coach.
I was by myself all the time. After golf, I didn't converse much. I was in my room.
Yeah.
I was on,
Hey, but you know what? You're pretty social for like growing up as an only child.
I think it's kind of the other way for me because there was no one around. I tried to look for everybody
Everyone to
and
talk
talk.
to?
Exactly. But everyone that I talked to was 50 years old, 6
Yeah,
years
yeah.
old at the golf course.
But you know what? You gain a lot of knowledge there.
I gained a lot of knowledge. You think a lot.
Yeah.
Like I think when you're 15, at least from the 15-year-olds I see now, you don't their minds, they don't think in a way where forward thinking. It's just
Right.
what's going
Immediate
on right now.
yeah.
But for me, I was always thinking, I want to go home. So I'm always thinking ahead. When is it going to
That's so
be?
sad.
It was
That makes me
sad. Honestly, I
Yeah.
would never want my kid to
Yeah.
do that, but I'm grateful for it because I was practicing every day, 8 hours, like that, and I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And so that made me understand when you do things you don't want to do, that's when you usually bear the best fruit,
Right.
in my opinion, right? Like
Did you feel resentful towards your parents during that
a little
time?
bit in the
little bit?
beginning.
Okay.
Because I moved back when I was 18,
Okay.
and then my dad said, "All right, now what?"
Okay.
He said, 3 years have gone by. Do you feel like you improved? I said, "Yeah, of course." He said, "Okay, so what are you going to do now?" He said, "We got to figure it out." I said, "Dad, put the trust in me. I'll figure it out." Because I didn't want that situation again.
Yeah.
Because that was my dad's decision.
Yeah.
And I had to respect it because he was paying for it. So when I was 18, I said, "Dad, I'll figure it out. Don't worry." So I found 2 coaches, course management coach and a swing coach. Bob Laskin, who's a very popular coach amongst Korean kids especially,
Okay.
and Pat Burke. He played on the PGA Tour for 12 years.
Okay.
He became my mentor instantly. I talked to him every single day, asked him millions of questions. And when I was 19, my dad said, "We have this USM qualifying coming up. If you don't qualify for this, you're done."
Okay.
And I'm like, "Dad, you know how hard it is to qualify for the USM?" At this time, I failed 3 times already. So
He said this is the last chance.
He says, this is your last chance. If you don't
Damn.
qualify for this, you're done.
Okay.
And I qualified. And
Dang, is it because of the pressure, you think? Or do you feel like it's because you didn't want to go to school? Or is it because you don't want to, what was it?
it's all that, but you know what it really was at the time? It was I had this thing towards my dad.
Yeah.
My dad, I'm like, oh, so you don't think I'm good enough? Okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
show you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna show you that I'm good enough.
Yeah.
And with looking back, it was a smart tactic. Because my dad, if you look at it in hindsight, he wouldn't invest all this money if he didn't think I was good enough. But he
Yeah.
was saying it to me because he knew that's how I functioned. He knew that because he tried it before.
Yeah.
I was willing to move out of the house. And the first time he did it.
Yeah.
So I believe the second time he did it, he knew I would respond well.
Yeah.
And he did it to me 3 times in my
That's
life.
crazy, man.
He did it to me in Japan one time.
When you were in the
Oh
Asian
my
tour.
goodness. I was Japan tour Q school, second stage, 2-3 shots out the number. And my dad said, right before the last round, he said, if you don't make this, by the way, you're done. I'm not supporting you. I'm like, Dad, you can't tell me this right before.
Right before the round.
But I shot 8 under
Damn.
the last round, and I made it by like 4.
Wow.
So, Dad, you're probably not gonna watch this, but you know the IG. But my dad's a smart man because I feel that
Because he knew how to tap into you and your motivation.
he knew how to hit me where I needed to be hit, and I respect my dad for it.
But that's a really good characteristic and character and skill set that your dad has. Because if you can tap into someone's motivation, and that's what we were talking about earlier, like, I don't know how to motivate my kids. Like your dad knew how to motivate. And if he can do that, and that's a skill set you can have, you can use that in raising kids, in business, in sports, because that mentorship or that coach to find out what your motivation is like invaluable. I try to tap into my kids. Like I try to find that motivation. To my oldest one, he's not into competitive golf, but he's a very smart kid, but he doesn't apply himself, in my opinion, to the ability. And if he can spend 50% more of his ability to any craft or any skill set, he would be like super, super successful. And I try to figure out that motivation. I still technically haven't found that. I told him one time, I said, because in high school, he took Latin, he took Greek, and it's like college master's level.
Dang.
And he picked it up really quick.
So he's
and
bilingual.
everything. He can also read books so quickly, and he would get 100% on comprehension. Like he can read like a 300-page book in like less than 2 hours.
What?
And then comprehend everything. He has a photographic memory.
Wow.
So I would try to tap into that. And I said to him, because I grew up with nothing, and so I became the entrepreneur and made money because I was the same way. Like, oh, all these haters saying you can't be successful, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Right.
And I was like, F that, man, I could do it.
Yeah.
And like my naiveness or my whatever it is, like I just said, you know what? I don't care. I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to live poor.
Right.
I'm gonna go make it. Right. So I was telling my kid, my oldest one, I said, hey, you put together a business plan and you go work it and make some money and I'll help you do it. And if you do that, I'll buy you a $200,000 car. Thinking that, but I felt like I didn't think he was gonna do it. But he was like, "Oh yeah, you really? I'm gonna do it, right?"
Right.
He never did it.
Right.
If that was me at his age and someone offered that, I'd be like, "Hell yeah, I'll do it."
My dad never offered me that, but if he did, I would have done it a long time ago. If I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the haters thing. Growing up, I would say I was a guy that when I saw someone get bullied, I would go to the kid that's getting bullied and like be on his side.
Okay.
Like I would be in a situation where it's not even involving me, but I hated seeing that.
Yeah.
And then that was my core, like when I was in 6th to 7th grade. And then as I got older, for some weird reason, actually it's not weird now that I think about it. A lot of people said I couldn't do it, right? I said, I want to be a pro golfer. Man, hundreds of people have told me you can't do it, dude. You're not special.
Yeah.
You got to be special. You got to be special. Many people told me this, right? And when I look back, I think the reason why people did that to me, right? Number one is because they couldn't do it themselves. And number two, they saw someone like me that I'm giving this energy that I could do it,
Right.
that they have to knock me down because they couldn't do it, right?
Right.
And so sitting in that and looking back, I'm so grateful for those times
Yeah.
because when you sit with a thought that you're like, oh my God, like maybe I can't, like you get doubt, or I did. I got
Yeah.
doubt from
Yeah.
people because it's like, I'm a young kid.
Yeah.
I can't help but to accept this information. And they're telling me I can't do it. They must know something. And it became a superpower for me as I got older.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, dang, I almost look for that now. It's like, I want someone to tell me that because I know I'll achieve it faster,
Right.
you know? And I took that in golf. And like I always say, I'm not talented in golf at all. I really am not talented. But what got me was my peers telling me, you don't got it. Like, you're not as good as us.
Yep.
And then I brought that into business,
Yep.
you know, that mindset. Did you have a similar experience?
I have the same thing because like
I could see it in your face. You're like,
and I'm like, I had nothing, and so everywhere I went to school. I didn't do well in school because I had to work in order to even have like spending money or have lunch money. We were getting government assistance, free lunches and stuff, and I was like, I don't want free lunch. How do I do it? So I found jobs starting when I was 12, 13. I went to different places and asked for people, hey, can I work there 1 day a week, 2 days a week? They gave me cash.
Yeah.
So I made $40. When I was 13, I made $40 a week.
right.
And that was back in the day, $40 was a good amount of money.
$160 a month.
Right? It's like $40 is good for like a 13-year-old. It could buy me lunch.
It's a lot.
Right? So from then on, like every time it was like, you can't do that. I was never book smart. And that's
Same.
why I get jealous of my son, who's like, all three are like really smart. And I never had that because I felt like my stress and pressure was to like survive. It wasn't to get smart. But I learned how to be smart, street smart, right? So like I grew up and how to handle things, dealing with people, meeting people. I barely graduated from high school. I barely graduated from college. But like along the way, it was always like, you can't do this. Oh, yes, I can. Yeah. Oh, you can't buy a car. Yes, I can. And like little by little, everyone that told me that I can't do it, I kept doing it. I kept doing it. And like, I think the key thing about business and why I like the topic of golf and business is that as I started getting more and more involved with different types of businesses, I got to get involved with different people. I started networking more. And instead of figuring out like, what are my talents that I can do now to make more money?
Right.
It became, who can I meet and who can I network with where I can use their talents and their network to grow my business or my career in the beginning,
Right.
and figuring out how to leverage that and helping them and both figuring out how to make money together, right? And golf is a perfect platform of where I can say, hey, let's go meet up at a golf course. And we can play golf and like to score, we can be competitive, but it's like, man, you just shoot the shit.
Yeah, exactly.
You just go golf. And a golf game, you can tell a person's integrity. Yeah. And we talked about this too. Cheaters in golf. Junior golf, like you said, we don't have to name names.
We're not going to name names.
We're not going to name names, but a professional golfer that you golf with, it was known to cheat all the time.
He's a cheater.
Hey, you know who you are, cheater. And my kids too, I told you, when I follow my kids around, we know kids that blatantly cheat. Not because they don't remember, they blatantly cheat and they can sleep at night. And their parents cheat, right? So
it's going to hurt them in the long run.
It is going to hurt them in the long run for golf, but also life.
100%.
Because if I'm going golfing and someone's blatantly cheating, I'm going to be like, you know what? I don't want to do business with you, even though there might be some kind of a good connection there. Because how do I know you're not going to cheat on me?
Wait, and you're cheating on something that's small.
Small.
So how can I trust you with the big things?
Correct.
Right? So like, this is supposed to be a fun outing.
Yep.
And, that's how I think about it.
Yeah.
Character.
So I'm always like, hey, what score did you get? Oh, you're like, oh, I got a bogey.
Yeah.
In my head, I'm like, you got a double bogey.
All right, I'm
Let's
deleting your
see.
number now. Your number's deleted.
Delete
right?
it, baby.
But to your point, I think about golf in a different aspect now because of the popularity. Because
Yeah.
growing up, I was embarrassed to be a golfer.
golfer?
Everyone was making fun of me, but now it's a cool thing. But I thought about this a lot, and I think I realized why golf is such a great denominator for even us. Right?
Right.
We're in a totally different field, which we're also kind of are in the same field, but I think golf is such a great denominator because as we get older, we have less time to do activities.
Right.
And if Sam comes to me and says, Sam, I play golf twice a week. Oh, I play golf twice a week. Can I fit in your schedule once a week? And another time, obviously, you do your thing. Sure, let's play once a week. You start building a relationship with that person on an activity that if you don't do that activity, this guy for 4 or 5 hours, he doesn't have time for you.
Right.
But you're doing it, I'm doing it, let's go. So I think it's a very scheduled, routine thing to do and an enjoyment and passion. Like it's all
Right.
the above mixed
Yeah.
into one.
Yep.
And then we didn't even get into if you're a good golfer.
Right.
Now, if you're a good golfer and you have all those attributes, I mean, and you don't have a business, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like seriously.
It's different.
Oh.
And I learned golf later in life. I learned while I was in college. And the only reason I got into golf in college was because I was doing an internship for a company called Tour Edge Golf in the Chicago area.
I remember that.
Yeah. So they had one marketing guy. They were just coming on the scene. They didn't have much budget, but they made good clubs. And so I said, oh, let me work there. So they pay me like, I don't know, $1,000 a month for an internship.
That's pretty good.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe less. I don't remember. But it was like decent amount. So I was there and I was setting up different golf tournaments and outings for them.
dang.
And so I learned how to do event planning. So like I didn't know shit about golf, but I learned how to, they gave me a set of golf for free, golf clubs, and I learned how to play a little bit. And so my handicap was probably like in the 20s at the time. But I kept practicing. I never took lessons. And right now my lowest handicap was like an 8. And now I'm like a 12. So
Did you like doing the events and planning it?
I did because I learned about marketing then. So in college. So I'm 50, almost 50, 49. And like when I was like 19 or 20 when I was learning how to do that stuff. And so I learned how to, I would travel because we were in Chicago, but I would travel to Florida and different places and set up these like hole-in-one contests to
Right.
promote Tour Edge clubs and
Right.
these different things. And I learned how like audience targeting and all these things while I was in college. And I was like, oh, I'm just doing it for money. But I learned all these different skill sets. And I learned how important golf was
Right.
back then because I was like, man, everyone's like playing golf and all these different types of people.
Right.
But everyone in business was playing golf, right? And I, recently there was an article from Forbes that came out, and they're saying that if you're in finance and consulting and something in a few different areas of business, the companies want to know your golf handicap because they want to know if you're a good golfer, you can take people out.
Yeah.
You can take your clients out. You can go to corporate events. You can go to these golf pro-ams and like not look like an idiot
Right.
because you're representing a company. So I told my kids too, I said, right now you're probably like a scratch golfer, or a
Right.
plus handicap or a 1 handicap, well, something around there, right?
Right.
Hey, you know what? Anywhere you go, they're going to want to take you golfing.
Right.
And, I have several businesses. One of my businesses in legal marketing. So one of the perks is like I go like entertain. I network with big national law firms and lawyers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get invited to these golf tournaments and golf outings that like most people can't go because I can golf.
Right.
And I can be social. I'm fun. I like to do things.
Hitting all the boxes.
Right. So, but I'm like the only fucking Asian who's out there doing it. Everyone else is non-Asian.
Yeah.
And I'm Asian.
Yeah.
And, typically in Asian culture, Asians aren't really social with non-Asians, right?
Yeah.
You see Asians partying with Asians, but you don't see Asians partying with other non-culture people because we're kind of, what do you call it? Exclusive to each other, right?
Yeah.
We're like, But my mindset growing up was always like, okay, you know what? I don't care what color you are. I don't care what business you're in. I want to be a sponge. I want to soak in knowledge.
Absolutely.
I want to soak in your personality. I want to soak in I want to know everything about your business. Right. If I sit there in a room, I'm going to say, a lot of people are arrogant and they want to talk about themselves, right? For me, I'm opposite. I'm like,
me too. Let them
hey,
speak.
you got a great business. Can you tell me about your business? I don't know shit about it.
Right.
Oh, let me tell you about it. Blah, 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 blah. They just like spiel. And I'm like, oh, shoot, these are some good nuggets right here.
Right.
Like, oh, how'd you become so successful in this?
Right.
And you're just asked a question. They just want to like tell you like, oh, this and this and this. I'm like, man, that's a great idea.
Right.
So I feel like in the golf course, you can spend 4 fucking hours on the course with some dude who may be the decision maker of spending $2 million a month the budget. And they're like, fuck, I like spending time with you.
No, that's such a good nugget right there, because when I was younger, like this is a lot of times when I was living outside the house when I was 15, I listened to a lot of motivational stuff.
Yeah.
Because I needed it, because I was so down. I wanted to hang out with kids. I wanted to, have fun. But I listened to Tony Robbins a lot at the time.
Yeah.
And he was getting interviewed by a Navy SEAL. And a Navy SEAL, he was talking with a Navy SEAL. He was supposed to teach all these guys how to shoot a gun more accurate.
Yeah.
And like, I forget the context, but he took a different field in his head and emulated it and modeled it into this, and it worked.
Yeah.
And he said this is when he found that, you could take another business, another topic, and try to take the things that are similar and the silver lining and put it with what you're doing.
Right.
That's why I call you all the time.
Yeah.
And, I get so fascinated with the things you do, because it's on a way higher scale than what I'm doing. Right. And so I'm like, okay, if like Sam's doing this, like, I could do this. I can't do that.
And I told you that when you first met, because I said, hey, there's only 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
So you got to think bigger as you understand your business more, instead of staying in as a sole proprietor, or, you keep your business small. And I asked you like, hey, what's your goal? Like, how much do you make right now?
Right.
And it's not like, because I want to know what your business is. It's like, okay, like I'm going to help you, because you have, like I said, 24 hours in a day. Right. You want to spend as many effective hours in the 24 hours to generate the most income. Right. And like, I've grown. In 1999, I was part of a business, right? And we went IPO in 2001 or 2002. And we had 23,000 employees, right? And it was like really big. And the downside of that was when the business went down, it was hard because we laid off a lot of people, right? And it was expensive because our business was in the downtown Westwood. And if you don't know, downtown Westwood, rent is expensive.
Yeah, super expensive.
We had 3 floors in Westwood in prime office space.
That's crazy.
And then so we were like, you know what? Let's lay off I had to lay off 3,000 people in that office, and then we moved majority of our operations to the Philippines. Oh. So we made a shitload of money there. But what I didn't like was laying off 3,000 people I became close with. For that helped us build our business, right? So I was like, you know what? Growing up. After that, I was like, I don't want to lay off that many people. So my business became smaller. So my next business venture was smaller. And then the next business venture was smaller. And so I try to limit my business to what I learned previously. So if you don't learn from previous businesses or experiences, you're never going to be a good business guy, because you're not like adding the foundations you build and the skill sets. You're just maintaining status quo versus growing. And so every experience, every business you go, you have to learn from it and grow from it. So I said, okay, less people, more money. So by the time, that was like 2002. So by the time we got to like 2015 and like 6, 7 other businesses in between, I was probably doing $140 million in business a year with 7 or 8 people.
That's amazing.
And I was like, you know what? I love that, right? Yeah. And so we were doing really well. We were about to get bought out, right, by a big pharmaceutical company because we did a pharmaceutical distribution, and we had a fire in our 3PL in our factory in Alabama, and that was like really bad because we had $30 million of inventory, and so
It's hard to come back from that.
we only had insurance for $1 million. So then after that business, I learned, you know what? Don't carry products, or don't carry too many products where you can lose that much money. Right. And so we were in the process of being bought out for like $250 million, and then it went out the door. So then, I would have had several exits to that point, but then we started into a new venture after that in different areas of the business, which currently doing some of it is legal marketing, and even in the legal marketing, we do pretty good.
Yeah.
And I learned from other people's legal business in the marketing space and turned it into a hybrid. So the money that I made from it, I can actually make 6 or 7 times more money than my competitors by just adding a few different things to the business. So instead of making, let's say, 30 to 60 million or $80 million a year, I can now flip it, make the same amount, but then multiply that by 3 or 4 times a year. So I'm making more like 100 to 150 million a year.
Right.
And so it's just a concept of like, okay, I have 24 hours in a day. How am I going to effectively work smarter instead of harder? Because I guarantee you there's guys out there that are working much harder than me every day. Sweat.
Yeah.
I mean, they're getting sore. They're fucking tired.
Yeah.
But they're not working smarter. Right?
Right.
And so I always, that's why I'm trying to teach you when I was teaching you about the different types of marketing ways you should approach your products and services. I said, there's time. Like even your golf lessons. You only have a certain daylight that you can give lessons to.
Right.
So if you're that much better and you have confidence in the value of what you teaching somebody, instead of charging $200, charge $800.
Yeah.
Because you can only see like a couple of people a week.
Right.
And if you can find a small group of people willing to pay $800 to $1,000 versus a guy you want to charge $200, you can work less for more money too.
Right. And, I think like you made a good point about that. You said, both parties are going to be, not that it's not serious at 200, but it's definitely, we're both putting investment in each other. Like
100%.
You said a really good point about this failure, quote unquote failures that you had, the learning experiences.
Yep.
I never had a business before what I have now.
Yeah.
But my business was, I guess I did. It was professional golf.
Yep.
And it's funny you brought that up. I learned so much through professional golf that's led me into business and entrepreneur, because I can look back now and say, oh, if I did X, Y, and Z, I know I would have been better.
Yep.
But I only could see that because I'm in a totally different lane. In golf, you practice 8 hours, you still go shoot 75 tomorrow.
Yep.
And it's depressing, right?
Yep.
But when I look back at myself, my personal things, I would have scaled myself in more playing, less range.
Right.
More short game I did enough, not gonna lie. But more playing than range. Because like you said, we only have 24 hours. How are we scaling ourselves that day to be more efficient?
Yep.
I look back and say, I was a range rat. I should have been a course rat. I should have been playing more.
Right.
And I probably play as much now than I did before. Like I would probably only play once a week when I was pro, unless it was a tournament week. But I was practicing, hitting balls.
But you know why I say effective practice in business or golf is important? Because, Miles Russell, he's like that 15-year-old prodigy for golf. Mm-hmm. And he played on the professional tour and he made the cut and he's like super good. So he'll probably be a really good golfer, hopefully, as he comes out and becomes a pro. But he's still young. But the reason that he's successful at 15 is his practice routine. So his practice routine, he goes to the range, from what I hear. He hits the range for 30 to 45 minutes, then works on the short game for like 30 minutes to an hour. And then he spends 3 to 4 hours of putting a day. And then on weekends, he spends 6 hours a day in putting. So I told my kids, I'm like, you know, that whole concept of like drive for show, putt for dough?
Mm-hmm.
Because even high handicappers or low handicappers, you're not going to get on the green in one.
No.
You know, you get on the green in 2 or 3. Yeah. But like you said, if the short game is good and the putting is good, that's where you cut the strokes.
Yeah.
So work on the areas that is going to cut the strokes. Why spend 3 hours on the range and 30 minutes on the green when you're not going to hit the ball on the green if you practice 3 hours driving that ball or hitting that iron, you know?
Exactly.
And at worst case scenario, you're 3 on, but if you can putt, you'll be 1, you still get par, right? And hopefully you make 1 putts when you get on 2. And that goes for business too. If you practice in the areas that you're not good at, for instance, if you're not good at networking, then go network.
Right.
Because you see all these people on like Instagram, like talking to random people, and like, dude, this guy's a loser. Why does he want to talk to these people?
Right.
But you know what? He's building a skill set.
Right.
And if you're shy and you can't go to a room and network with a bunch of strangers, guess what? Your business can't grow.
That's a very good topic, networking, because I feel that I was born to network.
Yeah.
But when I got into business, I realized there's levels to this. So base level networking is, you know, you can talk to anybody, you know, someone that doesn't look like you, someone that's way older than you, someone that's in a totally different field. You're good at networking. You can speak with that person, carry a conversation. I'm learning and I'm trying to get better every day is, okay, you could do that, but then get their information, follow up with them, find commonality of what you could offer them. What can you do for them? You know, what, like, it's plotting, you know, it's bringing value to that person without them even telling you. You know, I think that's what real networking is, because if opportunity comes and you're able to talk with that person, but then nothing happens from it, that's not really networking.
Yeah,
right?
there has to be follow through for sure.
For sure.
100%.
Yeah. I'm learning that. I'm trying to get better. You know,
and you also don't want to overextend yourself.
Right.
Because if you overextend, then you get to a point where they're like, oh, that guy doesn't know how to follow up.
Yeah. Right.
So, but then there's the same balance, and I'm dealing with this now. Right. It's like someone who doesn't respond to you. So you're like, how much do you push versus how much you pull?
Right.
Like, kind of
goes same with the kids again, right?
Same thing.
You know what's funny? I was just thinking this while we're doing this podcast. I was like, this guy Sam, right? He told me, hey, what's the name that we're gonna do with this podcast? Boom, right? He got the name down. The first time I came here, this thing was set up. He had this whole setup. He has the audio. He has the cameras. He has a team. This is what networking 101 is to me. Sam met me a few years back. We've connected. We've played golf. He's brought me up to his business. He showed me this, didn't push anything. He's like, yeah, it's here, Sam. He knew when I was ready, I was going to call him. He knows this. He didn't need to tell me. He knew Sam will hit me when he's ready because he showed me everything. To me, that's networking, because one of the best things I ever heard was when you build it, they come. Yeah. You built it. You already had it built. I saw it in my head already. I already visualized what can happen. It wasn't a fake visualization. I was like, oh, Sam already has everything set up. All I have to do is really show up. And so to me, that is like the cream of the crop. You know,
but I'm also a doer. That's why. Because I'm not about like just talking.
For sure.
There's a lot of people who talk in business and they never follow through.
Yeah.
I'm about, okay, but I never pushed you on this.
You never did.
I said, if he wants to do it, he'll tell me.
Exactly.
Because I have another friend who I told, and it's been like a year. He still has not like wanting to do it. Yeah. And I'm like, same thing. Like, hey, I got everything set up. Let's do this. And I'm like, he's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I didn't say anything.
Do you know why? Do you know what pushed me more? Like the last push for me, it was this. To me, it wasn't about this podcast succeeding or not. I wanted to succeed, obviously. Right. But for me, it was my day to day. Like, if I'm gonna invest once a week in this, regardless of success or not, it's good for me. Yeah. Because I'm talking with someone that knows business, that knows how to do high levels of business. I'm having a conversation, and it's content, it's good content that people can learn from, and that's success to me.
Yeah.
And obviously I want it to be big, but that's ultimately how I move.
Yeah.
Because all the opportunities that come, like you said, if it spreads you thin and there's no path to going upward, it's a waste of time.
It is. And one thing a lot of people don't know who I am because I'm not public out there. I have a family. I like to keep some privacy.
The real businessman, yeah.
In the last few years, I've been a little bit more public. But, obviously we have the podcast and I have a few other podcasts and different topics. But, like for me, I've done a lot of shit in my life, and I'll get more into it during the podcast too. But like one of the things in order for me to be successful is because I see so many people on social media that are posting shit and they're like, oh my God, look at this. And half of them don't even really live that lifestyle. They don't have the house. They don't have the cars. They're borrowing shit, right? And for me, it's like, you know what? You have to have humility and gratitude, right? And so I actually have that tattooed on me right here on my arm. It says humility and gratitude. And no matter how big you get, it's like you need to be humble with what you have and where you started from and be thankful every day you wake up. Like, okay, what you got is like you could be taken away, And I say that because I actually been to prison, So I went to the feds a while back, and that experience was like my whole life. It was like I had to I had control, but when I went there, I didn't. And all the types of people that I saw there, man, I lived 1,000 times better than all those people. And I got to get to know them, and I'm like, you know what? They're real human beings. And I'm not a guy who's like an asshole who's out there like flaunting everything. I'm like, hey, look at me, you guys are assholes and I have everything. And for me, I want to help people out. That's who I am. And like that's why I love shows like AGT or The Voice, because those make me cry because it's real. Those people are real, and when they get that opportunity, because I feel like all business guys, I don't know, golf you have to practice, but any guy who's successful in business can get there, but they might not have the right opportunity. But like the show like The Voice or AGT, it's like, you know what? They get in front and they got that 2 minutes, 30 seconds of fame. You can make it happen. I'd say the same thing in business. Like golf, obviously you gotta practice a lot. But in business, man, if you work hard and you put yourself on the right path, everyone has a different path. The journey is different. Some people get lucky right away and they make success right away. Others may take 30 years, 40 years, 20 years, 15 years. You don't know. So you got to be in your own time. But if you work towards it, I feel like you can do it.
I can't believe you just said AGT and The Voice. So when I was living at that house, every night I watched Britain's Got Talent and X Factor.
Okay.
And the reason why I loved watching it was because this person, because most of the time when they show the audition, it's because it was a good one.
Right.
They're not really showing too much of the bad ones. They do sometimes. But I loved watching it because you could literally see that in 1 minute, this person's life's about to change. It's going to change. Some are this much, some are that much. Right. I remember watching Kelly Clarkson. And obviously you see her now. I remember, and then you also start seeing, you also start judging for yourself. When they come on, you're like, well, is that person going to be a star? I think this person's a star. They have the movement. They have the... So I loved watching those things too. And then I would put myself there. I would say, hey, man, this one tournament, you might figure something out mentally. You might get the right affiliate for your brand. You might have the right... get the right deal that leads to that. You know, so I'm a big believer in that too, for sure.
And I just found out because I was watching The Voice this week. Morgan Wallace was on The Voice 2.5 years ago.
What?
That's crazy, right? I don't know if you guys knew that.
What?
From what I hear, I don't know. I didn't fact check, but that's what one of the judges said.
He's one of the biggest country artists in the world now.
He sold out SoFi and crypto, and it's crazy. But yeah, like
that's crazy.
I'm like, dude, that shows the power of like that 30 seconds to 2 minutes could change your life.
Right. But they've been prepared their whole life. A lot of the times, people don't realize that.
You gotta be prepared, though.
They've been prepared their whole life.
Yeah. crazy. Anyways, man, it's a cool chat.
I love it.
Good episode.
Yes.
First episode.
Yes.
Hopefully, if you guys like this show, please subscribe, tell your friends, forward it to other people, and we'll have more episodes to come. We'll have a lot of different types of guests.
Yes.
We'll talk about different business opportunities, different business ways, and different ways to increase your business.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for listening, and till next time.
Yes. Peace.
Peace.